Hi, welcome to Fem Stories, and my name is Anjali. So, have you heard about a David and Goliath story? Why am I saying that? I think in the Indian ecosystem of startups at this point in time, we are into that storyline. We are having so many Davids right now. They are playing with their slingshot with no armors and no army, but they are becoming the future kings. And talk about the Goliaths. I think they are getting a little bit scared. I was just reading the stories, and we have the founders in the studio today to talk about this in terms of how they are, the bigger wizards, thousands of crores empires, they are getting scared because they know somewhere these little Davids, they're creating something really significant. There are products coming out, there are services coming out, they're actually very significant and actually solving the problems of today's needs. They're hitting the ground running, and who knows, within time, all these Davids will become Goliath for tomorrow's. So I really wanted to share this storyline in the beginning because we have trailblazers today in the studios. They are targeting the women's health as the topic, and they have created a very significant piece of product and a service that they're going to talk about today in terms of how they are making these shifts, how they are making the change that needs to be brought in India, especially in women's health. And we have a very special guest today. She is a co founder of Gayatri, a venture backed women health platform. And she's worked with multilateral agencies like UN, WHO. And she's also co founded Blue Dot, which is an incubator to accelerate businesses, which is an amazing initiative for helping the other women entrepreneurs who are actually thinking, they're sitting on their couch, they're thinking they have the ideas, but they don't really have that resource, that vibe and tribe. And she's helping all those women as well. So she's an amazing inspiration, and her name is Swarnima Bhattacharya. So welcome to the studio. Thank you so much for joining us today. I would love to know more about what Gayatri is, what your journey is, what your story, and what brings you here. So over to you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Anjali. I think I really enjoy spaces which really just bring out the life stories of women and their
Yes.
journeys, because to be honest, nothing in my life has taught me more than just looking at how other women are getting things done.
Yes.
Honestly, nothing has taught me more than just that. So Gayatri is a women's health platform. We are a platform that helps women take charge of their hormonal health.
Yes.
Why do we focus on hormonal health? Simply because hormones have been stereotyped for as long as we know. Oh, it's all hormonal. Women cannot be leaders because they're hormonal. Up until 1990 and 1993, women were also excluded from medical and scientific clinical research because the hormonal shifts could not be properly accounted for.
Yeah.
And of course, we are all living with the rather devastating consequences of that gap in medical science. So, hormonal health is what we solve for, and everything that comes as part of it, whether it is your supplementation, nutrition products, science-backed programs for PCOS, thyroid, all of that. So, across life stages, women have to reacquaint themselves with their hormones. There are so many life events. There is marriage, there is puberty, there's menopause, there's fertility, childbirth. There are so many life events that women go through. So reacquainting yourself with your uh, physical body, your mental health, your hormones, that becomes so critical to living a thriving life.
Yes.
And we see ourselves as the partner for a woman in her journey as she navigates all of this.
Perfect. Awesome. So Gayatri is positioned as a female medical
Yes.
health partner.
Yes.
And so what exactly are your offerings? What exactly is your, what do you offer in
Yeah.
terms of your product?
Right. So
And
we are
services.
basically an ecosystem where we think that that women build trust once. Like it's women are decision makers, but they are not big spenders when it comes to themselves. So what we've created is an ecosystem which gives you products, but also experts and programs to solve for key deficiencies in hormonal health
Give
issues
us an
like
example.
PCOS.
Yeah.
For example, there's PCOS, there's midlife and menopause, fertility. These are things, vitamin D deficiencies.
Yes.
So we've got programs which
Okay.
are led by nutritionists.
Nice.
And we also give you therapists because, we want you to heal holistically, right?
Yeah.
So these experts will lead and, sort of take care of you in your journey. And we also have, scientifically curated years of research oriented, products. And we do not just have like random off the shelf things. We actually have a chief scientific advisor who sits with us, who talks to us about formulations. We think what are the ingredients that really help women.
Yes.
We do a lot of R&D behind it. For example, one of the things that we do, we are one of the leaders in the market for this, are the gummies for iron levels for women.
Nice.
And as we know that we are the anemia capital of the world,
Yes.
more than 50% of the women, actually nearly 70% of the women in India are anemic. They
Yes.
have some iron deficiency or the other. And, we just make it a little bit easier for them to navigate life as they do this. So in our iron gummies, we also have the WHO recommended clinically proven ingredient called the SunActive FE.
Yeah.
So our products are the reason why, we are different is because we see what women need for their hormonal health. We see what they need to thrive, to get better, to feel better. And we make that effort to do that R&D, to put it in our products and only recommend, with the suggestion of the experts.
Yeah.
So it's a very holistic healing, is the way we do our stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So let's break it down. Let's try and break it down in terms of very simple. I like to keep things very simple. Let's just make it up. Let's just say I have a PCOS. And I just identified, maybe I read through YouTube or I read through Google and I found out that, hey, I'm just feeling a little bit off in balance and probably I need some. I go to Gayatri.com. I read through, oh, you have the products. You also have the therapist and the nutritionist to give me the guidance. I mean, just walk me through how will you help me?
Right. So your journey, once you take a program with us, you can pick and choose whatever durations. We generally have programs which are at least 2 months long.
Okay.
Because we feel that
so
these
you
are
basically
long-term
put
things.
me into a cycle of a program.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you can choose whether you want to start with a 2-month thing or a 6-month thing or a 12-month.
Got it.
So these are the cycles that we do because no matter what your condition is, it is not possible to just wave a magic wand.
Yeah.
So we at least need 2 months to work with you.
Sure.
Right. And work very closely with you with our team of experts.
So it's more like a medical thing. It's like a medical, it's like a digital / medical way to treat yourself.
Yeah, but
Is that right?
Medical, but we also recognize, and especially in the case of things like PCOS, that we are actually adjacent to your medical system. For example, a lot of people come to us, who have gynacs and things like that. But, they are not still able to solve things like PCOS and thyroid without, medication that's affecting them, right? So what we do is that we look at symptoms that people don't normally talk about.
Okay.
For example, how does sleep affect your PCOS?
Yeah.
Because sleep affects your gut. How does craving affect your gut and therefore your PCOS? Are you able to track, your ovulation? Are you, losing hair? Is your gut health okay? Do you have a, problem in terms of, is it affecting your mental health?
Yeah.
Body image, various things. So there are a lot of correlations between things that we don't realize. And what are your risk factors?
Yeah.
People, for example, thyroid is a risk factor for PCOS.
Yeah.
And PCOS for thyroid. People just think it's diabetes.
Yeah.
But it's a host of other things, right?
True.
Things like that. So we really understand. And then what are your triggers? Every person has a very different trigger.
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't gain weight due to PCOS. Everyone, has a very different symptoms these days. In many cases, we realize that people who come to us with PCOS, many times they have been misdiagnosed. They may have something else. Somebody sometime told them that you've got cysts in your ovaries and they concluded that it must be PCOS.
It's more like an assumption based, thinking based, you're community driven.
Exactly.
But there is no exact science or exact example and exact diagnosis that, okay, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
This is the thing you need to take to cure it and, just come out of it. This is an amazing.
Yeah.
So again, taking it a step back. So I go into 2 months program. You help me with a nutritionist. You help me with a therapist.
Yes.
You help me with diagnosis of that it's actually a PCOS or something else.
That's right.
And then at the end of it, you provide the products.
Products,
Is
if
that
you
right?
want to, yeah,
If I
if
want
you
to.
want to, then yes, the products are, they help you with your protein deficiency, with your iron deficiency, better sleep, all of that. So we plug in what is, what is important for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't even need a complete program. Sometimes you just have a protein deficiency, maybe just the protein powder helps
Yeah.
you. So it
So
depends
you
on what you
basically
need.
dilute the whole topic
Yeah, we
for
basically,
us.
exactly. We
So
look
how
at,
different is Gayatri than our medical system?
it's
I mean, I could
actually,
easily go to the doctor.
yeah, you could, and you should, and we really encourage you to take all preventative tests
Yeah.
and checks with the doctor. But what we understand is that women's health is way beyond what happens inside a doctor's clinic. In fact, women's health is 70% happening outside of the
Outside.
doctor's clinic.
It's amazing. I mean, I love that because women's health is, I mean, all of us are talking about women's health topic, products and everything, and mental health as
Yeah.
well. These are very less talked about, less worked on topics lately.
Absolutely.
And now, people like you and others, like even Karina, who was the guest previously, they're working on very specific women health issue. We had Menoveda founder, she joined in one of the episodes, talk about only 5% knowledge on menopause. I was spellbound. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
not true.
Yeah.
So it's actually a great area to explore.
Yeah.
But having said that, why did you come up with this idea in the first place? Why Gayatri?
Well, before Gayatri, I was, I had, patient advocacy platform called Thea Care, which was a women's health platform as well. And where what we were basically doing is, seeing, listening to patient stories with PCOS, with endometriosis, with autoimmune conditions. And then I met Shelly, who ran She the People for a very long time. We had kind of known each other in the industry, and I admired her while she was building She the People, and she was building something for women's health. We got talking, and we decided to try this journey
So
out
is she
together.
your co-founder?
She is,
And she's
yes.
also co-founding
She's the founder of She the
She's the
People,
founder of She the
and
People.
she's a 2x entrepreneur. There's a
Oh
lot I
wow,
learned
we
from
would
her.
love to have her.
Yes,
Please ask her that I would
absolutely.
send her a personal invite,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
she has to join me.
Exactly. She's a 2x founder. She's a trailblazer in the, she spent about a decade, building She the People, telling women stories. And then when she started building for women's health, we just got talking and we thought that we'll give it a shot together. And so about 2 years later, here we are. And so why Gayatri? I think it was, if it was a very, very simple and straightforward mission.
Yeah.
We were seeing that, we always think that agar mujhe kuch ho jata, I'll go to a doctor. But number one, women don't go to doctors as often as they should.
They don't? You have the research from backing this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this preventative healthcare is absolutely poor in India across, across the gender
country,
spectrum.
yeah.
But even more so for women, there are so many women who, for example, breast cancer early detection does not happen so much in India. Cervical cancer early detection does not happen so much in India. We have some of the lowest rates of early detection, right? So that is because there's not a lot of awareness. People don't know about menarche and things like that. And therefore, they do not know how best to manage it.
Yeah.
So women do put off going to the doctor. Second is, like I said earlier, healthcare in general, but more so for women's health, but healthcare in general is way beyond what pill a doctor is giving you, what lab test you're doing at home, right? There is a lot more to it than that. There are factors like your sleep, your gut, your stress management. Are you eating the right things? Do you know what are your triggers for bloating? Do you know what are the things that, get you to have flatulence and severe PMS or things like that? These are things that we help with. Right. So for us, it is not, we are adjacent and complementary to the medical system.
Yeah.
We say very clearly that, we work alongside doctors, because.
So you might have the list of medical professionals that you actually tap along with. You work with them, right?
We have our own medical professionals who are trained by our chief medical director.
Yeah.
They work with us.
Yeah.
They are experts in hormonal health.
Okay.
And we always encourage our patients to take more preventative. We say that, okay, if you do not have a gynac who you can trust, tell us where you are. We will refer you to some person who's tried and tested by our community.
That's great.
And we'll put you in touch with them.
Yeah.
Because you need to get that pap smear. You need to get that mammogram. You need to have a gynac on your speed dial, because
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, women are working, they are thriving, and they need that energy, they need that stamina, they need
Support.
that support system to keep it going. And that's
Yeah.
essentially what we think our job is.
No, I think you bring up the very good topics. I mean, clearly you've worked for a decade in the public health, almost for the decade, which speaks, what your research and your work in this space. I feel like you're the AstraZeneca young health scholar, because working in a digital way and helping all the females, and especially in the female health sector.
Yeah.
Tell me about the Blue Dot. You also co-founded Blue Dot, and where you are helping. It's more like an incubator where you're helping the accelerate businesses. That comes actually a very nascent stage, right?
Extremely
People
nascent
have
stage, yeah.
ideas, but they don't have resources. I mean, I would love to join hands with you, because I might have ideas, but I just don't know. I might not have time, but I might have ideas. So who knows? If I get a good resource, if I get a good incubator, that idea might fly off. And I need a right pointer.
Yeah.
So tell me more about that. If you've helped people, what kind of help did you give? I would love to understand that.
So the Blue Dot, firstly, let me just deep dive on the name a little bit. It's basically named after Carl Sagan's book, The Blue Dot. So, it's basically because, I'm a huge admirer of Carl Sagan's work, and what he basically, says about the world, that, if you zoom out, we're just a pale blue dot, and, our time in this universe is just a speck. We actually don't matter, but we have a consciousness, we are alive. So once in a while, we have the opportunity to, pass our privileges along. So the reason we named it Blue Dot is because, we believe in the future of this little earth that we're a part of. And so this is basically a very, very early stage whisper of an idea. It's not even a complete idea, where we basically work with different kinds of initiatives to support in any capacity people who are building something that will make this earth a better place to live in. It does not necessarily have to be a business. It can be we have an initiative called the Sophie Fellowship, which is run by students, school students, mentored by college students who are basically preparing for maths Olympiads. And we don't see a lot of gender representation in math excellence or in STEM excellence. This is a completely student. I do nothing. We just, incubated under Blue Dot.
Yeah.
And I just chat with these kids from time to time. It's a completely student run initiative where they basically interfaced with multiple schools, gave peer coaching to, girls and boys for math excellence. And then, they represented India and won at the Olympiads. And, so this is
one of the basically run by the students?
Sophie Fellowship is entirely student
Just the
run.
Sophie Fellowship.
Yes.
Gotcha. But do you also provide the guidance to
Yes.
the women who have ideas, but they don't
Not
know what
just
to
women,
do?
yeah, not just women, but anybody who we believe is who has an idea which can just make the world a better place. So it doesn't necessarily. I lean towards healthcare and women founded kind of
You have a
things,
bias
but
towards it.
I have a strong bias towards anything or anyone who's building towards healthcare, anything, not just women's health, but mental health, primary care, SAS for, experts who are, working in the healthcare space, diabetes reversal, chronic conditions, anything anything under the
in that
under
area.
sun,
Yeah.
in healthcare. I have a bias towards it, but we don't restrict it. And what we do basically is, it's not just, as an entrepreneur, what I realize is that funding is honestly the least of your troubles. It's the least. So that is one thing that we also bring to the table. But what we actually bring to the table is, how do you get to the, brass tacks of building, getting the right team. And there are many bad days in the early stage. There are many days when you feel, why on earth am I doing this?
Yeah, I think there's a whole sine curve, right? There's a
Yes.
life of an entrepreneurship. The initial part is, oh, great, this is an amazing idea. I think 60 days down the line,
Yeah, how do I execute
what did I
it?
do? What did I
Yeah,
sign up
how
for?
do I test fast?
And
How
then
do I get
another
my
60 days come in front of them when the person says, this is great. There's a financial freedom. It will come
Yes.
eventually, or I have more flexibility. It's a whole sine wave curve. It's a
Yeah.
journey, but it's not easy. I was
It's
just
very
talking to
hard.
Karina that
It's
it's
very
not.
hard.
It looks glamorous and sexy, but I don't think it is. It's very hard. It's very lonely journey.
You
It's
know,
very. You have to pep up yourself every day. Get up in the morning. It's not like a 9 to 5 corporate job that they'll give you a pay
yeah, and you have
invoice
to, most importantly, you have to keep adding value
consistently add
to
value to your
your
services.
customers.
Yes.
Your customers, your community, these are the people who are betting on you. Of course, your investors are, but your largest stakeholders
Mm.
are your customers, and they are the ones that are betting on you.
Yes.
We are in month 20 of our full-fledged operations at
Mm.
Gayatri, and we've got tens of thousands of users. They are the people who bet on us.
Yes. People stop it, please.
You know,
Not snooze. Thank you.
So these are the people who have bet on us. These are the people who, have put their money where their mouth is. They have invested in us in their own way. So I think, how to do that is very hard.
Yeah.
How to keep acquiring? How do you keep retaining?
Yeah.
How do you deal with, sometimes, like misalignment with co-founders or, other senior people or junior people in the company? How do you sort of just the brass tacks of what is the right call for your technology?
Yeah.
What is the right call on the pricing? How do you decide these?
True.
The brass tacks of it.
Yeah.
And I feel that this is what makes the entrepreneurial journey
Yeah.
what it is. That is what, I am trying to learn
Hmm.
and trying to pass on.
Sure.
So that is what Blue Dot is. It's not your typical, space for, just coming for funds and things like that. It's basically to really build with people,
Yeah.
and provide that hands-on support.
So that's great. Thanks for sharing, because I think there'll be a lot of people who would sign up for that fellowship, who would sign up for talking to Swarnima that, hey, I have idea. Please help me get to the bay, get to the finish line, including me. I have ideas, but I really need people to give access to the resources, because I've not lived in this country for a very long time. So I don't know people. And besides not knowing the right people, I don't know the journey, how to pave. And even if I learn myself, which I'm doing right now, it might take 10 years, it might make 5 years. But if I work with the right resource like yourself, it might make 6 months. So it adds value. It adds a lot of value to the women entrepreneurships, to the people who are aspiring to become, something in terms of their idea. They need to get to the place where, with their idea, to make a mark, to make an impact. So Swarnima is the place for you. Go reach out. Of course, go reach out to all the Gayatri team members and the specialties and therapists, because if you have any issues, that's the place to go. But if you really are looking for a resource, same vibe, same tribe to vibe, if you have an idea, she's the place to go. And that's the reason, I wanted to really bring her and add that story, add that, journey here, because it brings a lot of value to us. So amazing. Thank you so much for that. I do want to double click on your personal journey in terms of, you mentioned that you actually have worked in, public health space as well, but then, uh, digressing a little bit, how that impacted your own personal health and in terms of the decisions you made after marriage, in terms of how you navigated the journey. I would love to know, because I know, I personally, when we had a discussion, you mentioned few things which could be a huge blow up for many women, and it could be a huge inspiration as well, including me. I don't know why the stories are so inspiring for me, because you don't know me and I didn't know much about you. We did have a conversation, but as you're talking, it just creating that notes resonance from me as well. So I would love to double click on that as well, in terms of how your personal medical decisions happen, why, how, and what.
So, I've been in the public health. I had been in the public health space for a while. Basically, in the policy space,
Yeah.
maternal health policy,
Yeah.
mental health policy, digital health policy, which is still at a very nascent stage in our country. Also gender and safety, online safety policy, these things like that. In terms of my personal journey and why healthcare is so crucial to me, it's simply because I'll just give you an example. There's somebody I know very closely. She's somebody I look up to as a mentor. She has stage 4 cancer. She works at Niti Aayog at a directorial position. She's very well known. She talks about her cancer journey very freely. She was a dancer, a trained dancer, and she continues to dance as she navigates that cancer journey.
Hmm.
And she just there are these really random people who keep trolling her that, oh, but are you fit for your job and things like that, just because, she's going through a cancer treatment. And
How awful. Why would they troll her?
because, I think people just have really strange notions about women and healthcare. I always keep saying, that women's health and women's virtue is very closely intertwined.
Yes.
There
I
are so
love
many
that.
people
Yeah.
who do not get access to sexual health information
Hmm.
at the right time because, in our society, in our cultural fabric, it is in, it's in lockheads with the culture and virtue and things like that. Then similarly, the pressure of motherhood.
Yes.
Then, once you're a mom, there are some things you're allowed to express, some things you're not that comfortable to express because people think that, as a mom, how can you be anything but completely filled with joy, things like that. So many times postpartum depression, gets misdiagnosed or there's a delayed diagnosis. So there is an entire life cycle of women's experiences where healthcare outcomes, real measurable healthcare outcomes, real concrete diagnosis gets either delayed or just waylaid because of, cultural norms and mindsets and things like that. So that is also, the why of my Gayatri journey and even before that.
Yeah.
And of course, it ties up to my personal journey.
Yeah, I heard you are actually adopting the kids. I
Yes.
found out about that, and I would love to understand in terms of why you reached to that point. It's a brave decision, given its Indian community. It's a huge decision, and I would like a clap. I would give a clap if you're actually thinking to adopt the kids. But I would love to know, like, it's a brave decision. You need to your husband on board, and in India, if you're married, and man's family as well. Your family
And
as
also
well.
my family.
And your family. So the whole tribe that needs to be on the table before you actually make the decision. It's not just your call.
Yeah.
So walk
yeah.
us through that challenging journey. Because I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of women and their families watching this eventually, and there'll be it might serve as an inspiration. So tell us why, what, and how again.
So, firstly, I would just like to preface this, with saying that, every woman's and family's family building decision is their own.
Yeah.
And there are so many factors, like you rightly pointed out, that affect those, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of people choose a path
Yeah.
and they choose based on what's best for them,
Hmm.
their, aspirations in life and, what they want to do, how they perceive themselves, how they perceive parenthood.
Hmm.
So all these decisions kind of flow into family building. So to each their own, we are very comfortable with people who take alternative or not so alternative methods to, build their families. For us, it was actually, I think both me and my husband, we just, it clicked on this very effortlessly. The efforts came after that, actually. So I had a huge health scare in 2019, which.
What's a health scare? What does it mean?
I got some news.
Okay, so you were
I was
diagnosed
diagnosed
with
with
some
some.
news,
Yeah,
and
I
you
was.
found out something about your.
Yes. I had a health scare in 2019. Even before that, but things came to a head in 2019. And yeah, I basically found myself at a bit of a crossroads. I had to make some quick decisions about my health and about my future. I was in my 20s at the time. I mean, my mid 20s.
Wow.
When this happened, and I was physically and mentally quite rocked. It was a blow that I personally at that time felt that this is going to change the course of my life.
Yeah.
I think I faced a decision. I faced a decision that, well, what now?
What now? Yes.
And what now in every sense of the term? I was, at the peak of my career. Things changed quite rapidly. And my life did change, but I'm finding out that it changed for the better. I think I have never been healthier. People who know me, who saw me a few years ago, they will probably attest to this that I have never been healthier. I have more mental clarity.
Nice.
We just took some very quick decisions at the time.
That's amazing.
We wanted to invest in our health. We wanted to invest as a couple in building things that, matter. And we immediately decided that we will build a family in an alternative way, which was adoption. And we did the necessary paperwork. We are doing it through CARA, which is a Central Adoptive Resource Agency authority in the country. It's a long waiting period, but we are happy to do that because
how long is it going to take?
It'll take us another couple of years.
Couple of years before you get to the kids.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
But that's okay. It's another way of building your family. I think we're very grateful.
Do you think, thinking about the time it's taken, do you think it is how things are here in India? It could be faster?
No, adoption is a complicated process.
Yeah,
adoption is a complicated process no matter where you go. And in India, in fact, I would say it is extremely child-centric, which is as it should be.
Yeah.
That how are children being registered into the system? How are they being assigned? How is their health checkup being done? How are they matched? It's extremely child's right-centric.
Nice.
Which is how it should be. It's a huge improvement, in terms of policy over the last few years. And yes, the waiting time is very long. Some of it was impacted due to COVID.
COVID as well.
That also had a role to play. Otherwise, it's not normally this long. But yes, it's a long waiting process.
So how did you manage to get the decision done with your parents and with your husband's parents?
My husband's parents and my parents, of course, there was resistance.
Yes.
I wouldn't lie about this. There was resistance. There was a lot of confusion. Because we took this decision very young. Generally there is this notion that
you will try 20s
everything.
And you figure out that you want to adopt the kids. You don't want to go into the IVF.
Yeah, we decided
you don't want
not
to go
to do
into
that.
other maybe in your families or your nested families.
Yeah, we didn't want to do that.
So you directly get into adoptive stages, which anyway is going to take a lot of time.
Yes. So
it's a brave decision.
These were the factors that, my parents, thankfully both me and my husband, we both, since a very young age, we've taken decisions that have always mildly surprised or shocked our parents, whether it's professional. So it was par for the course. We said that we will not, So when we got married, then also we shocked them a bit. Yeah. So
tell us a shock in one line. What was the shock about?
No, we just said that we are going to just marry. We'll just go and get a court marriage done because we don't believe in wastage. And they were like, "Oh my God, but you are the eldest, and this is our, karma and things like that." So all of that. So some amount of surprise is expected out of both me and my husband independently in our own families.
You're a surprise couple, huh?
There is that. So that was par for the course. But this was a huge
it's
adjustment.
a huge blow, yeah.
It was a huge adjustment. Also because they thought we were too young. We don't know what life is about. Maybe we don't. I don't know. But I wager that does anybody, even when they are 70. We'll find out when we find out. So, so
we love her carefree, nature. I love that.
Yeah, at that time, we just told them very clearly that, look, this is a decision that is primarily that of the couple. And you are going to have a huge role to play as grandparents of an adoptive kid.
Yeah.
We are open to any and every question. But we need you to get them addressed before the baby comes along.
Yes.
But we are here. We are also here for adoption counseling. Let's do it together if required. So we put it all very transparently on the table.
Amazing. It's a huge, I think I'll give you a round of applause for doing all of this. I would love that because I will highlight this part because a lot of women might be struggling with this phase when they discover that they could probably not be a mother, for so many reasons. I have gone through
I
that
don't
as
like
well.
that phrase, not being able to be a mother, because firstly, it was not a fertility related thing. I think you can be mothers in so many ways.
Exactly.
For example, you can be a parent in so many ways. I know a lot of people, couples who are child free, who are older than me, they're like mothering me till now.
Yeah,
I'm like,
absolutely. No, I absolutely agree wholeheartedly with that. But the fact that how the medical diagnosis is done and how the doctors give you the news, now how family takes it up, it just takes a toll on you.
It takes a huge
toll on your mental faculties. It takes a toll on your physicality.
Yeah,
It takes a
does.
toll, and it gives you a pause moment, and you think, what now? Like you just mentioned.
I have
It's not
had
easy to
this.
navigate those
It's not.
years. So
It's
take
not.
that inspiration from Swarnima because she has come out of it. She dealt with that pause moment. She dealt with her parents, with her spouse, and now she has taken a very courageous and a brave decision to adopt the kids, which is an amazing decision. How it goes, we'll all tell.
I
We
mean,
don't know. We're
yeah,
all figuring it out each
it's
day.
all as much of a gamble as having biological children. And who knows what they're going to turn out to
Who
be?
knows how it and
Yeah.
who it, I mean, we're all souls with our own purpose here. Like you mentioned, we are
Exactly.
very speck of a existence in terms of a grand scheme of things. So it's an amazing
Exactly.
decision and something very inspirational, which I found really inspirational. I mean, we are here to talk about entrepreneurship. We're digressing a little bit, but it's a very
But
important
this
topic.
matters. I
It
feel that,
matters a lot.
because, to be very honest, as in, firstly, I was, I'm very grateful that, my husband and I were on the same page since moment
That's a
one.
huge
But the
blessing.
questions are always directed towards the woman,
Women, yes.
obviously,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And we knew this would happen. We knew that, in moments of clarity, we say that, look, there will be times when I tell my husband that there'll be moments when I will be in a state of doubt. Then you have to be
support me.
the lead. So we do that, and that's how it is. So as of today, I think our parents are definitely getting there. Not 100% of their questions are answered, but they're making their peace with it.
That's very good. That's really
Yeah.
good. You're serving as an example and inspiration. I mean, with this decision of yours, and I'm sure there is more goodness attached to it. There is more universal power attached to it, and you are actually giving that as a go, which is amazing. So shifting gears back to entrepreneurship, given the healthcare, right? Given the women health, I mean, there are so many. There's a gamut of companies right now, smaller companies, mid-sized companies. And then there are giants out there, worth thousands of crores. I would rather talk a little bit about David and Goliath story, right? When there's a David with a little slingshot, is trying to reign, and eventually he wins a mighty warrior king, Goliath. So this is happening, and this is actually right now. I just read one of the inspirational stories on LinkedIn, and this will happen even more when Swarnima, people like you and Karina and other women entrepreneurs get to these smaller companies. That brings a change. That brings that swift change, and it eventually becomes so bigger because there is a need for it. Right? We are getting women receiving 1% or less than 1% funding. Let's just talk about it. Like this, it's a huge thing. So if you guys, if there are 10 people doing the same thing and there's a dire need, eventually the volume becomes bigger. The voice becomes bigger. And I'm here as well, like, creating that voice as well, creating my bit to that platform, creating this voice, adding the story and adding that inspiration. So what do you think about that? Goliath will be very, very upset. He'll be like, okay, this is my armor. I have this whole, with my force and power, but eventually the David wins. So what is your thing? We have so many little Davids now.
Yeah. I have my perspective on this has evolved quite a bit, even on that funding piece that you mentioned, right? I mean, see, it's not a fluke that, of course, there are systemic reasons, there are women who are falling off several points in the workplace, whether from education to career to the CXO level, women are falling off. There are lots of, leakage, leaky pipelines over there.
Like 70% of them quit at 30.
Yeah, I mean,
It's bizarre. Why is that?
60% of the women who quit their workforce, they cite healthcare as one of their primary reasons. And it's a very recent data from, I think, like just a year ago.
Yeah.
Right. So there is a leaky pipeline, which eventually leads to things like these that, there are not enough deals, which have a female founder's name on the deck.
True.
So there is a leaky pipeline. Coming to this, my thoughts on this has evolved quite a bit. I look at it simply as, is there a market? It's not enough for there to be a need. Is there a market? There is a need, yeah. Everybody needs to get healthy. But what is your health solution? Who is buying it? When and for how much? And will they keep buying it again and again? So I think
sustainable need,
carving out a market
audience
from a large need is the challenge. There is a need. There is no disputing that. But the market is very young. And we are building the market.
Hmm.
Building a market is extremely hard in any category.
Yeah.
Women's health is one of those.
Yeah.
It is obviously 10 layers harder because of the cultural, norms around various aspects of healthcare
Yeah.
behavior. But my job on the daily basis is to see who is my customer. Is my customer happy,
Yeah.
delighted,
Yeah.
not just happy, but
Hmm.
delighted,
Yeah.
and bringing in 5 more.
Hmm.
That is my job.
Hmm.
It sounds straightforward, but it's obviously very difficult.
Hmm.
But this is how we know that we are creating a market which is large enough for there to be more Davids and more Goliaths and all those kinds of things. And there is another thing which I always say: women's health companies today would not exist if some kinds of companies did not exist 10 years ago, like She the People, which Shelly, my co-founder, built, like She Rose, which was built by Sairi Chehel, like what Naya Sagi built. So there has been an attempt to center the market towards healthcare, towards women, towards parents. That's been going on for a very long time. We are another
generation.
Generation or another iteration in that.
Yes.
Then there'll be more, then there'll be more, then there'll be more. So for me as an entrepreneur, somebody who has to spend those 14 hours a day building, for me, it is like, what am I learning from the companies that existed before me?
Yes.
What did they get right? What did they not get right? Is it an execution problem? Is it a market problem? If it's an execution problem, fix it yesterday. If it's a market problem, learn as fast as you can. So it is,
and implement that.
And implement that. So that is how I see it. I do feel very optimistic.
Nice.
I feel optimistic that there is a shift in healthcare behavior. I don't know how many of the companies that exist today will exist 10 years later. That I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do know that healthcare has become a huge priority for investors. Healthcare has become a huge priority for people.
Yeah.
But of course, some aspects of healthcare take more precedence over the other, like mental health. Mental health is a struggling area.
It's a struggling area. Nobody talks about it. It's actually, people are still so much.
But there are female-founded, companies like Amaha that are still out there doing some great work.
And there are celebrities like Deepika. I mean, I can just drop the name because she's came out herself.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk about it. There is more. We need more examples like that.
So it is a hard category, but it's a category that is shaping itself. There are a lot of things that make us optimistic every day. That's why we're doing what we're doing.
Awesome.
But
yeah, I think those are some really good insights. I mean, we talked about adopting. We talked about women healthcare. We talked about how we can identify the symptoms in our body, in our physicality, in our mental health, and we can really, create that voice. And we talked about how we can actually collaborate with the different, nutritionists and therapists to treat ourselves and create that voice. So we learned so much today from Swarnima. Those are great learnings. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your journey. Very brave women, I must share, after learning with myself, because I'm thinking and at the same time learning as well from her. So I'm sure there is a lot of takeaways for all of you out there from her story. I will quickly jump into, a couple of just one big question, but it might inculcate a lot of questions, and we can just quickly go through it, and we can end the episode with some fun stuff if you're okay with it.
The rapid fire.
The rapid fire, or we can just talk about some fun stuff. Yeah, I mean, we should. It's all that very serious.
Yeah.
It's not a serious thing, but we need to talk about.
Yeah,
we need to
absolutely.
have a table conversation of all these topics enough to create that voice out there. So, two things. I think, what is your you must have, I mean, you've been working in this space for a long time. Any programs, any communities, groups that you can actually share with our viewers who are women entrepreneurs, that actually they can join, they can learn from their grants, whatnot, and any leadership advice from you for that?
Okay. I'm answering both.
Yes.
So there are, of course, a lot of communities. There's Leap Club. There is Ladies Who Lead. There are multiple communities that She the People is running on, for female entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
They have, they give awards for 40, above 40 and things like that. It's amazing. But there are a lot that are, are there, and depending on what your goal is, you can find a good fit with either of them. But the leadership advice is just reach out to people and ask for help.
So reach out, speak up.
Reach out. There are, okay, 10% of the people will respond to you, but 10%, that 10% is going to make your life. I reach out to people on LinkedIn like anything. I just chat with them. Somebody's working in public health, somebody's working in epidemiology, somebody's, building some wearable for mental health. I just like reach out to them. Not everyone responds, obviously. I don't respond to a lot of people, but I mean, those who do.
Thanks for responding to my request.
I mean, come on. So the point
I
is
had the legitimate process though.
but I genuinely feel that it's important for women, especially, to be a little unafraid of reaching out and thinking a little less about what they might be coming across as. Please remember, there is one way to grow, and that is by by building your own personalized network and grow.
Yeah.
And the second thing, if I may say so, please be a bit salesy. I know this is it's a strange thing to say. No, but it's true. It is something that I was not.
Yeah.
And I have learned a lot in the last, few years. I think, I had attended one social impact incubator, way back in 2017, the Do School. And they used to say, life's a pitch, and I didn't fully get it. They just put it on a t-shirt. I'm like, yeah, okay, very nice slogan. But now I get it. You are always pitching. You're pitching your own story. You're pitching your product. You're pitching. It is a pitch. Why not? Pitch yourself and be a little unafraid.
Basically market yourself. Nobody knows your story. So you should know your story, brand your story, tell your story. That's what she means when she says be a salesy, because what it means is what we are doing here.
Yeah, and
we are being salesy here. We are telling the stories. We are telling what's working for them and what could work for you guys. So we are being salesy here. We are actually branding. We are actually marketing our stories.
It's not just that. I just think founders need to be good salespeople. If you're not, that's okay. Learn. You'll become great at it. But don't shy away from that. Founders have to be excellent salespeople. Yeah. That's it. So I think
sales and marketing yourself, all that good stuff. Amazing. I think we have some great learnings, and I know Swarnima loves to share a lot of information, and we have so much information under one hood today. We will end this episode with some fun rapid stuff. So we have we'll find out more fun stuff and the grit grace stuff side of Swarnima today, and we start now. Your favorite vacation spot?
Singapore.
Nice. Book you're reading
currently? It's this book called What Will Survive of Us by Howard Jacobson.
Nice. Yeah. First thing you do in the morning?
Oh God, I check my phone.
That's not cool.
I check my emails. I wake
up in the morning. Are you working?
I'm. It's unhealthy as all hell.
I know.
That's my eyes and check
that's
my
like
emails.
all of us doing it. We all know it's not good, and we're still doing it. It's so addictive. Okay, I'm going to say two things, and you just tell me for one thing that comes in your mind in first 10 seconds. Friendship.
Love.
Love. What's love?
Friendship.
Love is friendship. Friendship is love. Great. I had love actually the next word to talk about when you already said that. Okay.
You can go ahead and ask me for
Okay. Love.
Trust.
Trust. Awesome. Favorite place to hang out in Delhi? Or in Lucknow?
In Lucknow, I just hang out at my house, because when I visit home, then I'm not allowed to go anywhere. I have to spend
your time.
We have to spend our time at home,
your
which
time
I love.
Is family time, yeah.
Yeah, so which I love. So in my hometown lawn, I think that's my favorite hangout place. In Delhi, there's this new place called Kartavya Path.
Where is it?
It's in central Delhi.
This is my selfish way to ask for places.
It's some people might find it a bit uncool, but it's just like lovely open space. It's green. It's got a little whatever artificial or some lake or something.
Nice. Where is it? In Delhi.
It's in central Delhi. It's right opposite India Gate. It's a wonderful place to just walk after dinner, talk.
Kartavya Path.
Kartavya Path, yes.
Path. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Which was earlier I don't know what it was called. Rajpath, I think it was called earlier. It's a recently constructed thing, but it's
okay. Okay. Do they have a restaurant too?
No, they don't have a restaurant.
Just a walking.
It's just an open space.
Okay. All right, favorite song and movie.
Oh God, this is hard. Favorite song? Okay, I will tell you I like all of Ali Sethi's songs. Ali Sethi is this, sensation.
Okay.
So I just binge on Ali Sethi. He's this who made the song Pasuri, right? You must have heard Pasuri.
I'm very bad in
Okay,
this.
you have to
so
look it up. Ali
yes.
Sethi, all of Ali Sethi's songs, I am
Awesome.
like a huge fan. Favorite movie, you said? That's too hard. I have like 50 of them, so we'll
Just
skip
one.
that. Okay, just one. Oh my God. I don't know. I think I like Bend It Like Beckham a
Nice.
lot. I
Okay.
saw it and as a child, it influenced me a lot.
Yes.
So I
Great.
liked it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Swarnima. That was amazing rapid fire. We learned a little bit, tad bit more about you besides Skytree and besides your decisions and your personal life. It was amazing to have her in the studio and it was amazing to learn a lot from her journey and the story. I'm sure you will take away something meaningful from this and implement back in your life. And that's the mission of M Story. So thank you for watching us and I'll be back with another episode. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Anjali.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So today was an amazing day, talking with Swarnima and Karina and just learning a little tad bit more about women's health overall. It was an educational experience for me as well in terms of, PCOS. We learned about women's health issues. We learned about the adoption. Swarnima has taken a brave decision to adopt the kids and the overall journey that she has founded and worked through it. It was amazing for me to learn and find and meet these women. I mean, I just count my blessings to be able to do this job and to be able to meet these women and to be able to learn their stories and share with you all. So for the next episodes, I will, get more interesting CEOs and founders and the trailblazers for Fam Stories to share their journey, to share their personal story with all of us. Thank you so much and keep watching Fam Stories. Thank you.